So we learned in Perek Shvi, Gid Hanasheh, Amud Kuf Aleph, 101, in the 101A1. So we asked yesterday, what happens if somebody eats Gid Hanasheh of a non-kosher animal, Be'imot Mea? So according to Rabbi Yehuda, is Mechayev Shtayim, is liable to 80 lashes, 40 for the Be'imot Mea, and another 40 for eating the Gid Hanasheh, eating the sciatic nerve. So according to Rabbi Shimon, he's not liable to anything, which is strange. Why wouldn't he be liable for Malchus, or eating a Be'imot Mea? Even if you argue that the Gid Hanasheh was not, there's no issue to eat Gid Hanasheh of a non-kosher animal, still he ate non-kosher. So Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Shimon says, whatever opinion you choose to attribute to him, a problem arises. Isu halal isu. If he maintains that a prohibition can take effect upon pre-existing prohibition, meaning we have a pre-existing prohibition that is Be'imot Mea, and we have, on top of it, we are adding the prohibition of Gid Hanasheh. Lechav nam mishum Gid. He should deem one who eats the Gid Hanasheh of a non-kosher animal liable for eating non-kosher meat, and also for eating the Gid. You should, like Rabbi Yehuda. And if he maintains, that's his view, that a prohibition cannot take effect upon pre-existing prohibition. In other words, if I already have prohibition of Be'imot Mea, I don't have the prohibition of Gid Hanasheh. Lechav mishum tuma dekodim. You should deem the person liable for violating the prohibition because what comes first? The limb. And the limbs of non-kosher animal. And then comes the sinew. So first he has to be liable for eating the non-kosher meat. And if he decides, and if he maintains that sinews do not possess flavor, thus they're not considered as non-kosher meat, because there's no flavor in them. It's a sinew. There is no pre-existing prohibition to prevent the Gid Hanasheh prohibition from taking effect, and so you should deem the person liable for eating the Gid. It says in number 5, as mentioned earlier, the Gemara assumes that the only reason for discounting the Gid Hanasheh prohibition is that it cannot take effect on a pre-existing prohibition. Hence, if Rabbi Shimon holds that this principle does not pertain in this case, because sinews do not have flavor, he has no basis for ruling the Gid Hanasheh prohibition. He has no basis for ruling that the Gid Hanasheh prohibition fails to apply. The Gemara answers, in fact, he holds, Rabbi Shimon, that sinews do not possess flavor. Gid Hanasheh has no flavor, and thus there is no pre-existing prohibition of non-kosher meat. Vishani awesome, but still the Gid Hanasheh prohibition does not take effect. Why? Because it is different there, and as so far as the Torah exclude non-kosher animal from this prohibition. The verse states, Al ken lo yochlu v'nei Yisrael es Gid Hanasheh. Mi shegidoi asu v'sor musar. Anyone that gidoi asu, when the pasuk comes, says Bnei Yisrael should not be eating the Gid Hanasheh. Which one his gid is also? The Gid Hanasheh is prohibited if the basar is mutar, if the meat is permitted. Excluded then is this non-kosher animal whose gid would be forbidden if the prohibition were to apply, and its meat would also be forbidden. There's no such a case, so the meat and the Gid Hanasheh. Someone eats Gid Hanasheh of nevela is liable to 2 according to Rabbi Meir. The rabbi said he is only liable to 1. The sages agree with Rabbi Meir. In the case, if one eats the Gid Hanasheh of an oila offering, or an ox that was condemned to be stoned, that he is liable to 2 sets of lashes, because in the case of Shera Niskol and Oiro, it's not an Avela. Uman Aiton, and who is this Tana? The Ve'isur Koilel, who in this case of an inclusive prohibition, he says that he is liable to 2. Isur Chal al Isur Leisle does not hold that a prohibition takes effect on a pre-existing prohibition. Isur Koilel Ve'isur Chomo. But in the case of an inclusive prohibition, that is also a stringent prohibition, Islay, he does hold that it takes effect upon a pre-existing prohibition. Amar Rava Rabbi Yosef Glili, that none, it is Rabbi Yosef Glili, for we learned in the Mishnah, Tome she'ochal kodesh ben kodesh tome ben kodesh toher chayo. If a tome person ate either sacrificial food that is tome or sacrificial food that is toher, chayo. Even if he ate, if the fact that he's in a state of tuma is liable, even if he ate kodesh that is tome. Rabbi Yosef Glili Eimer tome she'ochal esator chayo, tome she'ochal esatome poter. According to Chachomim, according to Rava, he is liable. He is a tome person that ate tome kodshim, a consecrated food that was the file that became tome. But according to Rabbi Yosef Glili, if an impure person, tome, that ate something that is toher is liable. But if he ate something that is tome, even though it's kodshim, he is poter. Shelo yochal el adavar tome, because according to Rabbi Yosef Glili, he only ate something that is tome. He is removing the fact that it was sacrificial food. Omar lo yaftome sheochal soter. The sages said to Rabbi Yosef Glili, aftome sheochal soter kevan shenogo bo timoyo. It says even if a tome person ate sacrificial food that is toher, kevan shenogo bo, the moment that he touched it, he makes it tome. So he will never be liable for eating sacrificial food, because he contaminates it the moment that he touches it. So Rabbi Yosef Glili's position is explained. Shapir Kamar le Rabban Rabbi Yosef Glili. The rabbi asked him a good question. So Rava said first, where the person became tome first, and the sacrificial meat became tome afterwards. Everyone, Rabbi Yosef Glili and Chachamim agrees that he is liable to bring a chatos for eating the meat, even though it had become tame by that time. The isur kores kodim, because the kores bearing prohibition came first. Keep lige. In what case do they argue? Banitma bosav achagach nitma guf, where the meat became tame first, and then the person became tame afterwards. So the meat first tame, and then the person. Rabbanon islu isur koile. The sages hold that an exclusive prohibition such as this, right? The sages hold that an inclusive prohibition such as this takes effect upon a pre-existing prohibition. The migoy the michav achasichos toher dam, for since it causes him to become liable for eating toher pieces of sacrificial food which were previously permitted. Michav nami achasichot temeo, it also causes him to become liable for eating this piece of tome food. If he is liable for eating toher food, how much more so he is liable for eating tome food? It's amigo. But Rabbi Yosef Glili does not hold to the principle of inclusive prohibition, that an inclusive prohibition takes effect upon a pre-existing prohibition. The migoy lo yamrinan, because we do not say, since Rabbi Yosef Glili rejects the sages' argument that since the latter prohibition renders him liable for eating toher pieces, it should also render him liable for tome pieces. It has been shown that Rabbi Yosef Glili applies the principle of a prohibition. A prohibition cannot take effect upon a pre-existing prohibition, even where the second prohibition is more inclusive than the first. Chachamim, who adopt the view in the Gemara above, are reporting the opinion of Rabbi Yosef Glili. Rabbi Yosef Glili nehide isur koile leisle beisur kal. But the position of Rabbi Yosef Glili still requires explanation. Granted, he does not hold that a more inclusive prohibition takes effect upon a pre-existing prohibition. where the second prohibition is as lenient as the first. But if the second prohibition is more stringent, let the more stringent prohibition take effect on a pre-existing lenient prohibition. And what is it? What is the stringent prohibition in this case? Tuma saguf. The prohibition based on a personal tuma is more stringent. Tuma saguf b'chores, because eating sacrificial food while in a state of personal tuma is punishable by chores. Whereas the pre-existing prohibition against eating tummy sacrificial food does not bear such a severe penalty. Amaravashi man leimalan the tuma saguf chamura. How do you know that the impurity of the body is more stringent? That on the person's tuma is more stringent. Dilma tumas basur chamura. Perhaps the prohibition on based on the meat tuma is more stringent. Maybe the meat, eating meat that is tameh, sacrificial meat that became tameh, maybe that is more stringent. The leislo tahor b'mikveh, because you can go into the mikvah, but to put the meat into the mikvah, it doesn't help. So it shows that maybe it's more stringent. The Gemara asks whether Rabbi Yossi Aglili indeed holds, as Rava asserted in the previous passage, that one prohibition cannot take effect on another, even if the second is more inclusive than the first. So Rabbi Yossi Aglili does not hold that an inclusive prohibition takes effect upon a less inclusive one. Ratanya. Why? It was taught in a Braisa, Shabbos ve'Yom Kippurim. If on the day that was both Shabbos and Yom Kippur, it happens sometimes that Shabbos falls on Yom Kippur falls on Shabbos, Shogag ve'osam malacha. One inadvertently did a forbidden labor on Shabbos and Yom Kippur. From where do we know that he is liable to two different liabilities, two different prohibitions, the prohibition of desecrating Shabbos and the prohibition of desecrating Yom Kippur? Talmud leimar Shabbos hi. Because the pasuk says it is Shabbos. Yom Kippurim hu, and then it says Yom Kippurim. It is Yom Kippur. These are the words of Yossi Aglili. Mean it's not an inclusive prohibition. Each one has its own. Rabbi Akiva said no. He is liable to bring only one chatos, not two chatos.
Doesn't Shabbos always wouldn't be the first Esther, because Yom Kippur depends on the base din. When they say Rosh Chodeshes, right? So one is more kavua, and the other one in Yom Kippur is.
So that's the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, but Rabbi Yossi says no, because the pasuk says Shabbos hu and the pasuk says Yom Kippurim hu, then it's two liabilities.
So which one is more?
Shabbos is worse, yeah.
It says what you're saying is the pasuk says it says Shabbos mikachur v'kaimu. Shabbos doesn't need the rabbis to declare it Shabbos. It's Shabbos on its own. Yom Kippur, on the other hand, it depends on the intercalation of the month. So
would you say one is more deribanim, the second one is more deribanim?
We'll see. It could be that the rabbis will take the view of Rabbi Yossi Aglili. It doesn't mean that they'll take the view of Rabbi Akiva. Okay. He is liable to bring only one chatos. From Rabbi Yossi Aglili's ruling that both prohibitions apply, it emerges that in his view, a more inclusive prohibition does take effect upon a less inclusive one.
I didn't understand.
It says it's according to Rabbi Yossi Aglili, there's two liabilities over here, two prohibitions. Right, Shabbos and Yom Kippur. Look at number 4. It says the prohibition of Shabbat and Yom Kippur take effect at the same time. When night falls on Friday, this case then is not the standard one of a prohibition being added to a pre-existing prohibition. It's not there was a prohibition, now it's added to something. It's two different prohibitions. The Shabbos commenced on Friday night and Yom Kippur commenced on Friday night. The Gemara, however, deems the two analogies. Hence, for Rabbi Yossi Aglili to rule that the Shabbos and Yom Kippur prohibitions apply simultaneously, he must hold that both would apply even if theoretically they began at different times. Anyway, the point is that according to Rabbi Yossi Aglili, it's two things. According to Rabbi Akiva, is one. Sholach Ravin mishum de Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina. Ravin sent the following message in the name of Rabbi Yossi, the son of Rabbi Chanina, to resolve the difficulty. Kach hatzor shel Mishnah. This is indeed the presentation of the Tanoic teaching, as it was received, but the text is corrupt. Ve'epuch, and we must reverse the attribution of the opinions. In fact, it was Rabbi Akiva who said that the transgressor bring 2 chatas offering, and it was Rabbi Yossi Aglili who deemed them liable to 1. Sholach Rav Yitzchak bar Yaakov bar Giur mishum de Rabbi Yochanan. Rav Yitzchak bar Yaakov bar Giur sent the following message in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. The Rabbi Yossi Aglili lemay da'apchon. According to Rabbi Yossi Aglili opinion, as it was reversed, the perpetrator is liable to bring only 1 chatos. Shogag b'Shabbos ve'izid b'Yom Kippurim. If he sinned, Shabbos sin was inadvertently, and Yom Kippur sin was intentional. Now, what do you do? Shogag b'Shabbos ve'izid b'Yom Kippur. Hazid b'Shabbos shogag b'Yom Kippur. So we said Chayav is liable to bring chatos for having inadvertently desecrated the Shabbos. Hazid b'Shabbos shogag b'Yom Kippurim. If he, however, he sinned inadvertently with regard to Yom Kippur, and deliberately with regards to Shabbos Potu, is not liable to a chatos at all. In the opinions of Rabbi Yochanan, as expressed in the preceding message, when Rabbi Yossi Aglili ruled that the transgressor is liable to only one chatos, his reason was that the Shabbos prohibition takes effect, but the Yom Kippur prohibition does not. Hence, a chatos which is brought only for inadvertent transgression is not required unless the Shabbos was desecrated inadvertently. My timer, what is the reason that the Shabbos prohibition takes effect as opposed to the Yom Kippur prohibition? Amar Abai, Shabbos Kviyah v'Kaimo. Shabbos was determined and established from the 6 days of creation. As we just mentioned, Yom Kippurim Beidino, the Kovelo, Yom comes to Yom Kippur, Beis Din decides when Yom Kippur is going to be. Amar le Rava Soif Sof Tarvaya Ba'ad Adod Ikasu. But prohibitions comes at the same time. When night falls on Friday, neither can be said to have applied first or last. They will both commence together. It was a time of religious persecution, when the government decreed that the Jews may not observe Yom Kippur. And the sages of Eretz Yisrael sent a message from there of the Jews of Babylonia, the Yom Dechipure Deho Shato Shabbosahu, saying that the Yom Kippur of that year should be observed on Shabbos. I have to tell you this quickly. There was we just read that there was persecution, religious persecution regards Yom Kippur. So I heard that there was a Holocaust story that there was these capos, the Jews, that they would work with the Germans.
What Jews?
Capos.
Yeah.
They helped the Germans.
Of course.
So there was one place where there was a big tzaddik, I forgot his name. He was in the camp, but he was hiding from the capo. He didn't want the capo to identify him, because if a capo would identify him, it would give him a harder time. It would make it harder for him. So Jews, before Yom Kippur, came to this rabbi and they said to him, we want you to talk to the capo that he should allow us to go to do the work in a different cabin where it's quiet and we can observe Yom Kippur. So he didn't know what to do. He said, if I will come to him, he will definitely identify me and it's going to cause me trouble. But he decided that he does it. He goes to him. He walked over to him and he said, do you know me? I know you. I'm asking you a favor. I want you to help us the Yom Kippur day, if we can work in a different cabin, 2-3 Jews, and without bothering anybody, we'll still clean over there, but just let us. So he on Yom Kippur, the day that led to Yom Kippur, was a regular day for the Germans. They worked like dogs, And it came at 9, 12, 11, 12 o'clock at night. They were back to their cabin. The Jews came to the rabbi and they said, we have to sing, we have to kol nidre. People came to him, what is he going to do? They're all dead tired, laying on on their benches there. And so they started kol nidre. So each one said the piece that he remembered, and other camps together, they heard them. It was a big commotion that they were saying kol nidre. And the next day, this rabbi wakes up, he sees the capo in his face, and he said to him, I just want you to know that I appreciate courage. Meaning you had the courage to do it, I appreciate courage. They're cruel, but they're appreciating courage. So he told him, you go to that place, that cabin, and you do the work over there. He gave him permission to do it, so they went. About 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and knock on the door. An officer, a German officer, walks into the cabin, and he offers them. He brings a whole plate with food and meat, chicken, potatoes, and they didn't see food for probably two years. Nothing. So he said to them, I heard that it's your holiday today. I'd like to give you some food to eat. So he shoves it in the Jew's face. The guy is on the floor cleaning, puts it in his face. The guy's almost fainting just from the smell of the fume of the hot food. So he looks at the food, he looks at him, he goes to him, no. So first the German is convincing him, said, listen, you're going to die, it's not a good idea, it's dangerous for you, you have to eat the food.
Maybe I missed something. The German knew that it was Yom Kippur and he was
I guess the capo informed them that there's Jews
in it. He was doing it to spite.
He said, so they came now, purposely said, they're fasting on Yom Kippur, they want to observe the holiday.
Right.
So he gives them the food. So the Jew says no. And then the German gets upset, and he said, eventually he takes out the gun, puts it in his head, he said, you eat the food, you don't eat the food. And then he goes to the capo, and you tell the capo, you tell him to eat the food. So the capo is trying to convince him to eat the food, and he's not eating. He looks at him, looks at the rabbi on the other side of the floor, looks at the German not eating the food. So then the German gets upset, he takes the plate, and he gives it to the capo, and he said, you eat the food. Okay? So the capo is killed people, he did horrible things, he's a Jew. But he just saw the courage of the other Jew on the floor. The German puts the gun to his head, and he wants to eat, and he's not eating the food. So the capo looks at the rabbi, looks at him, looks at the German, and says, I'm not eating. The capo decides he's not eating. So he said, I'm going to kill you. And he killed him. But he didn't eat the food.
If someone wanted to kill you, you have to eat.
The German killed the capo for not eating the food. He got upset and walked out.
But Rabbi, by the halacha,
Imagine.
the capo should eat.
No.
If someone going to kill you, eat.
One second, one or shouldn't eat. It's
I think the German would have killed him anyway.
What?
I believe the Germans would have killed him anyway. He just wanted to break the spirit even more. The whole idea of what the Germans wanted to do is to take the humans out of them. So anything, you trying to keep something, you want to say you're still believing in God, you still have, I'm going to show you that it doesn't work. Look, you got abandoned.
You weren't supposed to eat.
Right.
And he would have shot him anyway.
It was a public desecration.
Yeah.
So
Anything.
But Rabbi,
But it just shows you the
what is the right decision? If someone puts a gun in your head, eat or gonna kill you, you have to eat.
depends. It's not so simple. It's
In
not.
this situation. I would eat.
This situation is only come to show you what is a Jew made out of. It's not whether it's right or wrong halachically but it shows you a Jew stands up for the nekuda, the essence, the core of a Jew is revealed in this time.
Wow.
Even the guy was killing Jews, and he gave a hard time to Jews, and he took the side of the Germans. When the other Jew was able to awaken within him that part, he was Moser Nefesh.
The only time you're not supposed to eat is if your wife puts a gun to your head and she's a lousy cook, then you're nuts. Either way.
So that's why I said there was a time of persecution of Yom Kippur.
Yeah.
It says, "Amar leRava sof sof tarvai ba'ad adode kosu, elam Rava shmodo havo." Religious persecution when the government decreed the Jews may not observe Yom Kippur. What do they care if we're fasting for a day? What's the big deal? V'sholchu mitom, and the sages of Eretz Yisrael, sent a message from there to the Jews of Babylonia. The Yom Kippur Deo Shato Shabboso was saying that the Yom Kippur of that year should be observed on the Shabbos. V'chein ki oso Ravin v'chol nechosei amru kirava. And so when Ravin came as well, as all those who descend from Eretz Yisrael to Babylonia, amru kirava, they interpreted as Rava. The Mishnah stated, Amar Rabbi Yehuda v'alom ibnei Yaakov. Rabbi Yehuda said, was not the Gid Hanasheh prohibited from the era of the sons of Yaakov? They said to him, the prohibition was first stated at Sinai, but it was written in its appropriate place. Tanya, Amru el Rabbi Yehuda. They said to Rabbi Yehuda, V'chi nemar al ken lo yochlu bnei Yaakov. It says, al ken lo yochlu bnei Yisrael. Is it stated, therefore, the children of Yaakov are not to eat the Gid Hanasheh? It is only stated the children of Israel are not to eat the Gid Hanasheh. Lo niku bnei Yisrael ad Sinai. When they were called Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel, they were called only until they stood at Sinai. Evidently, the verse was not stated before that time. Elai b'Sinai nema. Rather, it was first stated at Sinai. Ela shenichtav v'mekayim. But it was written in its appropriate place, right next to the story of Yaakov. Leil, why was it written there? Leidam ezatam nesar lahem, in order to let the Jewish people know the reason the Gid Hanasheh was forbidden to them. Moshe Rava objected, Vayisu b'nei Yisrael es Yaakov avim. It says the Bnei Yisrael carried Yaakov their father. This incident took place before Sinai, and they were already called Bnei Yisrael, right? Vayisu b'nei Yisrael es Yaakov avim. The Gemara ends la'achar ma'aseh. That occurred long after the incident of Yaakov's encounter with the angel. By that time, God has given him the name Yisrael. Amar le'Rava chabrei de Rava le'Ravashi. Mei shaito litzo. Rava said to Ravashi, but let the Gid Hanasheh be prohibited at least from the time when Yaakov's sons are described the children of Israel. The children of Israel transported Yaakov, their father. Amar le v'chito pa'amim nitno. Was the Torah, Ravashi said to him, was the Torah given at different times? It was not. Since that point in time when Yaakov was transported was neither the time of the incident, the struggle with the angel, and nor the time of the giving of the Torah. It is impossible to say that the Gid Hanasheh prohibition was first imposed then. The Gemara cites a Tanoic dispute as to whether the prohibition against eating a limb from a living animal applies in the case of non-kosher animals. Tanu Rabban, Ever min achai noeg b've'im achai ve'oef. A limb from a living animal, which is one of the 7 Noahide laws, applies to behemoths, chayas, and fowl, ben tmeim or ben te'erim, whether they are kosher animals or non-kosher animals. Div Rabbi Yehuda v'Rabbi Lezer. Div Rabbi Yehuda v'Rabbi Lezer. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Lezer. Chachamim eino noeg la b'te'erim. And the rabbis, the sages say, it applies the law of a limb from a living animal applies only to kosher species. That's the opinion of Chachamim. And they both, Chachamim and Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Lezer, expounded the same verse as the source for the rulings. Only be strong not to eat the blood, for the blood is the life. You shall not eat the life with the flesh. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Lezer holds that the Torah juxtaposed the prohibition of eating a limb from a living animal to the prohibition of drinking an animal's blood to teach that. Kol she'ata mitzuvah al dom ve'ata mitzuvah levor. Wherever you are commanded not to consume an animal's blood, you are also commanded not to eat its detached limbs. You're not allowed to eat its blood, you're not allowed to eat its detached limbs. This means that these non-kosher animals are also included in the prohibition. Because when it comes to non-kosher animals, you're also commanded not to eat their blood. You are commanded not to eat their detached limbs. Chachamim interpret the pasuk differently. They said, you shall not eat the life with flesh, implies that you may not eat the flesh only when it is accompanied by life. Flesh taken from a living animal. But you may eat the flesh on its own. Flesh from a dead animal. Hence, any animal whose flesh is permitted when dead, namely kosher animals, you are commanded not to eat its detached limbs. But any animal whose flesh is not permitted, even when dead, namely non-kosher animals, you are not commanded not to eat its detached limbs. That is, the Torah's prohibition against eating limb from a living creature does not apply in the case of non-kosher animals. You would ask, what's the difference? I'm not allowed to eat the animal anyway, so obviously I'm not allowed to eat the limb from it. But for goyim, they're allowed to.
But you know what I want to know? If you said that
Goyim are not allowed to eat a limb from a living animal. But what about a non-kosher animal?
But if you say that the Isser of the Gid Hanasheh only took effect at Matan Torah, so because that's when the Torah was given, even though it was given in chronological order, right? That's what he said. So then you could say the Sheva B'nai Noach, it was in the same Torah that was given at Matan Torah. So maybe the Sheva B'nai Noach didn't exist until Matan Torah also. If we're going to go with that logic, no?
The Sheva mitzvahs of Noach were accepted already from the time, way before from Noach. Why did I call it Noach?
But how do we know from Noach except from the Torah?
Right. So that's what they're saying, that certain things were given at Sinai and placed in the some kind of an order.
Right.
So really, the issue of Gid Hanasheh was given at Sinai.
Right.
But it was placed to tell us the time, like the Gemara says, to tell you the reason why you're not allowed to eat the Gid Hanasheh. Not allowed to eat it because of what happened with the angel.
So the Meister of Noach had,
Lemaise, we know, for example, that one of the things that Yosef used to tell about his brothers, he was accusing them for eating Eiver min Achai.
True.
So we see that Eiver min Achai was already an issue way before.
Okay.
Way before the giving of the Torah.
All right. So then that's how we know that the Sheva B'nai Noach took effect before
But
Matan Torah.
really, it was a fetus. So fetus doesn't have Eiver min Achai. They thought they're eating without shchita, but the fetus doesn't require shchita, like we learned.
Right.
That's where he missed.
Okay. Well, I just was thinking about the logic of the whole thing.
6 of the 7 were in effect since Adam and Rishon, right? And only the 7th one was added.
There was times after the flood. After the flood, they came up with a
Let it go. He'll
understanding of why
lose sleep. Are you going to lose
of
sleep?
why why it happened, and they took upon themselves different things, not
He was
that it
gonna
shouldn't
do
happen again.